Good morning, Wolfpack. This afternoon, we'll be talking about tech in education as we look to adjust our technology practices going into semester two. If you have not yet accessed the Nearpod, you may do so now. If you are with us synchronously, I've dropped the link in the chat. You'll also see that my name on Zoom has been changed to the Nearpod code. If you are joining us asynchronously, go ahead and access that link. You'll see the code is included in your email, KY4QU. Go ahead and give yourself a moment to get set up as we go over our objectives for our time together. By the end of today, we will have normed on the definition of education technology, explored what 21st century learning means in our classrooms, reviewed options for tech-driven taxonomies, and made education technology commitments for semester two. For those of you who are just joining us this semester, I'm S.Jasuta, and I'm here to continue supporting you through our shared learning of technology. I'm the second through fourth grade Dean of Instruction here at KMP, and we know that virtual learning has been a roller coaster of a ride, but we're in this together. And as we continue to grow our understanding of technology and the role it plays in our instruction, especially with virtual instruction, should you have any questions or want to do some exploration of the topics covered today, you can reach out to me via email at sjasuta@kipneworleans.org. And without further ado, let's dive in. We are going to begin together by defining educational technology. Before we look at some of the research and what some of our articles say, I want us to take a quick moment to jot down. What is your current definition of educational technology? If you are doing this asynchronously and you need to pause, you may pause this video now. Don't forget to click post to share your answer in this collaboration board. The Association for Educational Communications and Technology, or the AECT, defines educational technology as the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. We are going to break down this definition just a little bit. When the AECT says study, we mean the theoretical understanding of, as well as the practice of, educational technology, which requires continual knowledge construction and refinement through research and reflective practice. This is all encompassed in the term study. That means our learning as educators, as adults, never stops when it comes to tech. Ethical. We have to consider who is included, who is empowered, and who has authority in the new issues of design and development of learning solutions. But an ethical stance insists that we as educators and educational technologists question our practice areas in these ways. Facilitating learning. Most students have demonstrated brilliance as they have embraced new learning platforms and navigated everything from tablets, Chromebooks, hotspots, and computers distributed by schools to problem solve often before a teacher or parent is called in to help. Students are able to search on YouTube, post images on Instagram, edit videos in TikTok, so we know that their technology literacy can be harnessed in ways that we have yet to imagine. The AECT builds onto this, emphasizing the need for educators to provide students with the immersive environments and cognitive tools educational technologists help design and use to guide learners and make learning opportunities available, and to assist learners in finding the answers to their questions. Finally, we look at the terms creating, using, and managing. The AECT states that design approaches can evolve from different developer mindsets: aesthetic, scientific, engineering, psychological, procedural, or systematic, each of which can be employed to produce the necessary materials and conditions for effective learning. Bottom line, it is our job to embrace creative solutions for problems we have not yet to identify. But we can identify some problems that manifested in semester one. Throughout the United States, approximately 29 million households have children between the ages of 6 to 17, and about 82.5% have access to broadband. That's 9 percentage points higher than average for all households. But this still means that 5 million households with school aged children do not have high speed internet services at home. And low income households, especially Black and Hispanic ones, make up a disproportionate share of that 5 million. Access is also just one piece of the problem. With lack of access also comes lack of fluency with technology, and the rate in which internet is used at work and in everyday lives varies by income. 81% of workers in households that make $100,000 spend at least some of their day using the internet for work related tasks. But that number drops to 36% among workers living in lower income households. And when it comes to the ability to use technology, lower income Americans are more than twice as likely than those in other income groups to be classified as digitally unprepared. So, part of our job as teachers is to include access and technology fluency to bridge this gap. Having looked at the AECT definition and the digital divide, how has your definition of educational technology changed? Take a moment to jot your revised definition here. Don't forget to hit post on your submission. Together, we can create the shared definition of educational technology. Ultimately, educational technology is the ethical engagement with and the study of technology that creates and encourages the learning of students in a classroom setting. Let's keep this in our minds as we dive into our next section, where we talk about 21st century learning and explore what 21st century learning means in our classrooms. But first, a story. So, my sister is a coder. She works with a marketing company, and her job is truly to dissect lines and lines of code. And this is something that I feel like I bring up every holiday season when I visit her. I ask her, should my students be learning how to code? Should my students be learning how to read and write lines of code, which is something that I feel like I did lightly in high school and thought I would use for the rest of my life. And arguably, aside from MySpace back in the early 2000s, I rarely use it today. And she said to me, I'm going to be honest with you. Code is going to be obsolete soon. And that while it's a good skill to have right now, we are going to advance in technology beyond reading and writing code. So really what you need to do is teach your kids how to think, because that is what's going to drive and change technology. So when we talk about 21st century learning, the purpose is to create seismic change through creative thinking and critical thinking that we ask our kids to do. So, in 2 or 3 or 4 skills, we can define 21st century learning in these 4 buckets. I do think that how we as educators employ technology will answer if it's helping or hurting students. But when we think about about rote instruction of technology like typing clubs, learning to type quickly, asynchronous learning programs, this type of instruction has its place in our instructional practice, and it will allow our students to build fluency with tech. But to my sister's point, the other part of our practice has to be allowing students time and space for the 4 C's: collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and creativity. Collaboration means working with others, but also includes elements of collaboration, including interpersonal communication, conflict resolution, and task management. Communication is a social process in which information is exchanged in order to convey meaning and achieve desired outcomes. This includes crafting clear messages, identifying desired outcomes, adhering to conventions, and accounting for social and cultural differences. Creativity is the ability to produce novel and useful ideas. This depends on the level of expertise in a given subject, the ability to engage in unconventional or divergent thinking, intrinsic motivation to engage in creative activities, and personality factors, such as a tolerance for ambiguity and preference for risk taking. Finally, critical thinking is a multifaceted skill that involves problem solving in the face of ill defined information using systems analysis, argument analysis, creation, and evaluation. These are 4 big, broad buckets that we know are important for pushing our students' learning in the 21st century. But we also know that this is already happening in our classrooms. I want us to take a moment and jot down 2 to 3 examples of how the 4 C's currently manifest in your classroom. Now we're going to move on to talking about tech driven taxonomies. We are going to look at 2 different taxonomies and think about how they can apply to the learning that we want to see happen in our classrooms. Lots of us are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, but let's take a look at 2 other taxonomies that incorporate technology and 21st century learning. As we look at these 2 taxonomies, I want you to think about preparing students for the 21st century. Should there be a more focus on technology driven taxonomies like the Samar wheel or Trigram? Let's take a look. As we look at the Samar wheel, we notice that there are elements of Bloom's incorporated in this wheel, but we also see how it is less linear and more of a progression, saying that we can go either way on the wheel as thinkers and creators. We can also take a peek here at the Tpac Trigram. The Tpac Trigram integrates pedagogical knowledge, technological knowledge, and content knowledge, seeing that these layers overlap with each other and overlap ultimately. Based on these high level previews, which would better fit you and your students' needs? Which would you like to learn more about? Which would you like to see manifested in your classroom? Go ahead and take a moment to answer the poll here. As we wrap up our time together, we're going to spend the next couple minutes making commitments as we drive into semester 2. The first reflection I'd like you to have is around the 4 C's. I want you to think about an upcoming lesson. How can you ensure that the 4 C's live in your lesson? What will you do? I want you to take some time here to post 1 or 2 ways that you can make sure that the 4 C's are living. Next, I want you to think about the Samar wheel and the Tpac Trigram. How will you incorporate one of these taxonomies in your classroom this year? Finally, I want you to think to the future. What additional hopes or needs do you have regarding technology in your educational practice? I'm sure you're filled with lots of questions, and I hope that you learned a little bit of something today about educational technology and the way that it can manifest in our classrooms, building off what we've learned in semester 1. Like I said before, if you have any questions, you can email me at sjasuta@kipneworleans.org. But in the meantime, thank you for your hard work and your continued commitment to our students' success as we've been working in our virtual hybrid learning environment this semester. We know that what it takes to become a 21st century learner is not just based on virtual instruction, but based on the ways that we can push our students' thinking.